Gravel crunches softly beneath frayed boots as I step between the old stone lanterns, incense curling above my head in ribbons of morning smoke. A bell rings inside the temple, sharp, then gentle, fading into the mountain air. I hesitate at the gate, but the gatekeeper only nods, eyes flicking to the sleeves covering the mark on my wrist. The courtyard is empty except for a pair of students sweeping, their voices hushed as they steal a glance at me. One whispers, "Do you think he's a pilgrim?" His friend shrugs, face shaded beneath a broad straw hat. "Stranger, maybe. Grandmother says some travelers bring omens." A line of crows scatters from the roof beams as I cross to the doors. The main hall smells of cedar and something older. Memory, perhaps, baked into the wooden floor. Monks in muted robes shuffle in for the first prayer, thumbing beads, their movements gentle but precise. I slide into a shadowed corner. My pulse matches the quiet drumbeat that marks the start of their chant. The air thickens. The incense burns brighter as the chant rises in pitch. I close my eyes, catching fragments of syllables, warmth pulsing in my chest. "Look," murmurs an acolyte behind me, nudging his friend. My presence ripples through the routine, a hush dropping, then ebbing back like a wave. Someone fumbles with a prayer flag, knotting it around the rail. I catch the eye of a young monk stacking bowls at the altar. His hands freeze, eyes narrowing as if he's measuring more than my shape. A flick of recognition, then caution, then something softer. The abbot clears his throat, gaze never straying from the flames flickering between us. "You have come far," he says, words careful, almost amused. Some hear the bell as an invitation, others as a warning. "Which are you?" "Just passing through," I answer, voice lower than intended. He studies the wind stirring the incense. "There are no accidents at the gate." My silence lingers, the mountain light catching small beads of sweat on my brow. Even the birds seem to wait, perched silent above a world on the verge of shift. The students resume their sweeping, strokes uneven, distracted, but it's too late. Curiosity has moved among them. A prayer wheel spins, its creak echoing the uncertainty in my chest. I bow my head in respect. Somewhere beneath the routine, questions tighten. Who brought this silence between us, and what hidden path have my steps crossed this morning? A thin bell tolls again, deeper this time. Behind me, incense coils upward, tinted gold in the newborn sun, and I feel the first stirrings of an awakening neither I nor this place can explain, yet know must now begin. A slow hum fills the air. The monks gather in deep lines, bowing as the first rays of sunlight scatter across the altar. The rhythm of their chant rolls steady, prayer beads clicking one by one in their hands. Sunbeams glance off polished wood, gilded edges aglow with blue morning mist that drifts just above the floor. I find space at the back, hoping just to listen, but something in the air has already shifted. The head monk moves to the front, hands clasped, eyes half closed in tranquil focus. The instant I step closer, the chant stutters. His lids flick open, direct, unblinking, locking with mine across the room. The world narrows. I forget to breathe. At first, his control holds. Then, without warning, his jaw tenses, his grip on the beads falters. A murmur ripples through the students. Someone in the row ahead exhales sharply, voice just a thread. He never stops, not for anyone. Another acolyte folds his robe tighter, knuckles blanching as if cold has seeped through the mat. The sunlight sharpens, lines of gold flaring across the chief monk's face, his brow creasing, lips parting, uncertainty rippling through every fold of his robes. For a moment, no one leads. The chant wavers, then falls silent. A thin blue mist lingers above the altar, swirling as if stirred by an invisible breath. The beads at the monk's wrist click together, sudden and sharp, as he lowers his hands. He holds my gaze, expression unreadable, calm shredded by something raw and searching. Briefly, I see sadness, awe, and fear flicker across his features before he bows his head in swift retreat. His shadow draws long as he turns, robes brushing past the altar's edge. He leaves the hall without a word, footsteps ghosted by the stunned breathing of everyone left behind. The air tightens, waiting. The silence after his departure feels heavy, contagious, like everyone now knows something has broken the sacred pattern. In a single mirrored glance, stillness is upended and destiny is rewritten. Sunbeams flicker on the prayer beads, a sign both soft and impossible to ignore. A single, shocked silence falls across the temple. The chief monk's robe swirls as he vanishes through a side door rarely touched, his bare feet whispering against painted floorboards. Every conversation, every movement in the monastery freezes. The youngest acolyte drops his broom, hands trembling, voice caught on the edge of a gasp. "Where's he going?" someone whispers, their words sharp against the hush. Senior monks exchange quick, worried glances, flickers of disbelief passing between them. A middle-aged caretaker sets down her incense bowl, watching the empty doorway with wide eyes. "I've never seen him walk out, even during thunder or mourning," she mutters. From the shadows, a young novice chews his lip, shuffling prayer beads. "Maybe it's a test for us," he murmurs, more to himself than anyone else. Narration weaves into the tension. Not a single monk dares move to follow. Even the birds seem to still crow calls distant and brittle. Ritual bowls sit untouched at the altar's edge. The chief's sandals are left neatly beside the door, a sign not of anger, but of deliberate departure. Only the distant clang of an outdoor bell marks time, echoing eerily, as if tolling for the end of a season, not just a morning chant. In the courtyard, students press against lattice windows, hoping to catch sight of the abbot as he disappears into the cloistered walk. Somewhere in the back, a stove clicks off, its steady hum finally silenced. The temple feels both suddenly hollow and charged, like breath drawn in but never released. A novice's voice breaks at last. "Did it start because of him?" he asks, glancing at the visitor still standing, hands folded, near the empty mat. There are stories, but none of us believed they could be true. The stranger's face remains unreadable, eyes set on the closed door. Yet everyone feels the new gravity of his presence. What just left the room was more than authority. It was a secret, finally summoned back to life. Above, the midday sky dims as clouds stumble across the sun, and the incense slowly spirals, its lines confused as fate now hanging across every threshold in the temple. Candles flicker in a narrow corridor, shadows crawling along walls carved with serpentine shapes, some familiar, others twisted by time. The monks move in slow knots, voices trembling as they trade whispered tales between sips of morning tea. An elder with a furrowed brow leans against a cold stone pillar. "Long ago," he begins, "they said a stranger's gaze could release or ruin a lineage. Sometimes it grants a blessing, sometimes a warning." A junior monk tugs his sleeve, curiosity overpowering caution. "But what about the prophecy, the one about the Watcher's Eye?" The elder's eyes darted to the hall where the chief vanished. "It said a true meeting of eyes, monk and marked, doesn't just shake the present. It pulls a thread from the old world into our midst. When it happened last, the rivers were reversed for 3 days. A hush settles, each breath measured. The youngest acolyte hugs his prayer book tighter, voice catching. Do you think it started again? His friend shrugs, uncertainty mirrored in the guttering candlelight. If it has, we're meant to bear witness, no matter the cost. Outside the kitchen, 2 temple workers set down trays, faces drawn. Even the shrine dog hid when the bell rang. One murmurs, pressing a hand to her chest. Maybe the stranger's not just passing through. Maybe he's the one the walls whisper of. An older aspirant fingers a worry bead, gaze half lost to memories. That statue at the west gate moved a tear when he entered. These are signs only fools ignore. Narration folds into their unease. Legends coil just beneath every footstep, a past both heavy and alluring. Fear and awe tangle together, neither winning, but both forcing the monks to question what is truly protected here, and why a single look could open every door meant to stay shut, at least, until now. The candles flutter as a draft sweeps through, shadows elongating. Somewhere, a prayer wheel turns with a slow, unsteady rhythm, a signal perhaps, that what happens next will rewrite more than the monastery's stories. My heart drums in my throat as I linger in the quiet darkness of the old guest cell, incense drifting through the cracked window, cool stone at my back. When my eyes close, it all comes rushing in. The chief monk glancing up from his prayer beads, our gazes locking across the candlelight. In that instant, the world thinned, time split in 2. A metallic taste tinges my breath. Lotus and iron mingled on my tongue. My hands clench at my sides. I came to this temple to leave memories behind. But suddenly I see all I tried to outrun. Shields bearing symbols from a war I never fought. A lineage woven from blood and vow. My grandmother's voice whispers in old Sanskrit. Open your eyes, but never your hands. I ache to obey, but the vision surges on. A flash. Monks armoring themselves in silence, tattoo spirals hidden beneath simple sleeves. I blink, and another memory. A night fire. Embers casting long shadows as elders etch protection into the earth. My pulse jumps. Was that the chief as a boy? Is this the thread binding us now? I taste copper, sweat cold against my skin as 1,000 voices press into my head, chanting in rhythm with the temple's bell. I stagger to the washstand, splashing water on my face. My reflection fractures, eyes older than my own. Scars and stories lit bright, then fading. Please, I whisper aloud, knuckling white around the battered bowl. Let this be a test, not a return to what I lost. But nothing in this room feels accidental. Every symbol, granite swirl in the window, faded sigil carved in the lintel, rushes me back to that slow-building promise. I am not just a visitor here. I am the key, or the curse. A shiver runs my length. The lotus and metal in my mouth won't fade. As the morning bell tolls again, slower this time, I hear an echo. My own voice layered with voices that do not belong to this age. My fear seethes, but so does an old hope. Maybe this is the moment every ancestor watched for in silence. A single gesture waiting to become destiny. I grip the windowsill, eyes falling on the faint glow of a hidden tattoo emerging beneath my sleeve. Pulse racing, mark alive. You cannot run from what remembers you, a memory says. Old, firm, merciful, and relentless. A footstep in the corridor. Someone pauses, breath held, as if about to speak, or join me in this haunted becoming. In the hush that follows, I taste lotus and metal and listen for a sign. knowing I will not find peace until I answer the memory awake in both our eyes. Outside the walls, the forest edge is awash in late morning mist. The chief monk walks slowly among the cedars, robes gathered tight, head bowed beneath branches that whisper secrets with every breeze. Each step draws up buried memories, rituals from childhood, his mother's hand circling charcoal on stone, stories of gate watchers who waited for the one who sees and is seen. His fingers brush bark rough as old skin, heart lurching. "What did I miss?" he murmurs. "Where have I let the cycle turn?" He recalls the forbidden scroll, hidden for decades behind the altar, its calligraphy sharpened by warnings. Only in the presence of the true eyewitness would the next protector awaken, unbidden, unavoidable. The legend always sounded distant, yet the stranger's eyes held an ancient weight, a memory of vows sealed before either of their births. Wind rises, sighing through cedar needles, scents of resin and earth riding the air. He kneels in a patch of moss, the coolness grounding him, hands trembling as he traces the pattern of the lost sigil into soil. Images flicker, his own initiation long ago, the cold rim of a clay bowl pressed to his lips, a night when the mountains sang with foxfire and fear. Suddenly the realization blooms. This visitor isn't a threat or an intruder. He's a link, a sign the lineage must awaken, whatever it demands. The monk pulls the forbidden scroll from the folds of his robe, parchment crackling, symbols winking in slanting sun. Tears spring unbidden to his eyes. "I always thought the next in line would be chosen by comfort," he whispers, eyes blurring as he reads the prophecy aloud. But it's uncertainty that marks the true beginning. His hands hesitate, tracing the last line, a promise that whoever causes the watcher to break the pattern must themselves become both student and teacher. The wind hushes. Far above, a hawk wheels and screams, echoing across the valley. The monk lifts his head, clarity flooding his chest. "You are not a distraction. You are the next cycle's necessity," he breathes, voice steady now. He folds the parchment, the scent of cedar and old ink thick in his lungs, and rises. The silence is no longer empty, but expectant. A sanctuary no longer seeking to keep the world out, but ready at last to usher destiny through its waiting doors. Have you ever met someone who changed your course with just a look or a word? Tell your story below. A dull tremor runs underfoot as the bell in the main hall tolls, urgent and out of sequence. Monks rush outside, sandals pounding in uneven time, faces pale with an excitement edged by fear. The chief monk waits for me by the garden gate, jaw set, fingers worrying a faded prayer bead. "There are signs a stranger must face," he says quietly. "Come. If you truly belong to the order, the earth will answer." He leads me through a low arch, hidden behind flowering vines and stacks of mossy stones. The garden beyond is wild, roots threading beneath deep green moss. An acolyte meets my eyes, pressing a strip of white cloth into my hand. "Repeat the old mantra," she urges, "from memory or spirit. Your path reveals itself in the words." The other monks form a wide circle. I breathe in, rolling the cloth between my palms. The ground prickles, the air sharp with ozone. I don't know the words, I admit, heartbeat thudding. The chief monk raises a hand. "Say what rises. The land remembers even when the tongue forgets." I close my eyes and begin, voice shaking. Through root and stone, through time unseen, I stand at the turning, yield or awaken. The soil warms beneath my feet. Students draw in their breath. The mantra flows stronger. Protect what remembers. Open what heals. Thunder echoes in the distance. A subtle hush falls as the ground shivers once. Then again, a low, rolling quake loosening the soil under the old cedar. A sharp crack, startled gasps, a patch of moss glows faint, neon green, as if charged by unseen energy. From the trembling ground, a small silver amulet bubbles up, dirt parting like water to reveal its spiral-chased surface. The acolyte kneels, hands trembling, offering it to me as her voice wavers. The sign is clear. No one planted this. It always appears when a new watcher is called. The monks bow their heads, both in reverence and relief. The garden returns to calm, air pulsing with a sense of old vows fulfilled. In the hush that follows, I cradle the amulet, electricity dancing over my fingers. Eyes meet mine all around the circle, trust sparkling where only doubt had lived a moment before. Above, a hawk circles, sharp and silver against the gathering clouds. My path is chosen, not by blood, but by the earth, the test, and the answer that no ritual could ever fake. Moss glows, thunder rolls, and I realize, sometimes the first step is saying yes to a challenge that knows you better than you know yourself. 1,000 miles away, a Mongolian shaman jolts upright in his yurt, the slow beat of a drum cutting through the smoky dusk. Something moves. Old wires pulled tight, he murmurs, painting spirals on deerskin with a trembling brush. Across the world, a Moroccan Kabbalist lights a saffron candle, chanting names beneath his breath as students circle. The dream wind has turned. Gather the old signs, he instructs, pressing dried mint into each palm. Meanwhile, high in the Andes, Peruvian elders pause their weaving to draw patterns of protection, fingers knotting blue cords as thunder cracks over distant ridges. Word ripples from the Himalayan temple, passed first by wind, then by whisper, then by signal bouncing off cell towers. Rituals in each culture ignite. The Mongolian shaman scrawls charcoal on the four corners of his lodge, feeling the earth shudder beneath his feet. The Moroccan magus throws a pinch of saffron to the breeze, the air suddenly humming with electricity. The Peruvian villagers launch into a stomping dance, their feet tracing ancient glyphs into the soil as mist rises around them. Each ritual is different. In Mongolia, the spirit drums quicken and dancers leap, spinning as eagle feathers twist overhead. In Morocco, incense clouds crackle gold, voices braiding old prayers into new geometry. In Peru, laughter and song interweave with caution, every step measured, every glance a silent question about what is awakening. As the sky darkens across continents, elders and initiates alike peer into the distance, hearts pounding. Prepare the guardians, the Mongolian shaman whispers. The world's thread is pulling tight. The Kabbalist kisses his ring and nods to the west, where dreamers might soon gather. In Peru, a child presses a blue string to her chest and closes her eyes, listening for a sign, half afraid, half sure it will come. Narration winds through this global awakening. The stranger's challenge has sent tremors through old tales and modern lives, each culture sensing the cosmic event and readying in their own way. Myths that once divided are now woven together, each ritual a signal that someone, somewhere, must answer the call. Inside the candlelit council chamber, monks gather in uneven rows, the scent of old parchment sharp in the warm air. Scrolls lie unfurled across lacquered tables, their edges curling beneath golden light from the star-shaped window high above. Senior monks murmur, voices pitched low, division hangs thick among them. The youngest, eyes bright with both hope and anxiety, clutches the newly discovered amulet. He found it. No guidance, no cheat, he whispers. The garden itself was chosen. A stern elder draws a narrow breath, brow furrowed as he traces faded ink on a sacred text. Tradition cannot be cast aside for an omen, he says, voice brittle but not cold. The eyewitness must be tested. Only then can he stand among us. Another counters softly, hands folded in his lap. But when a pattern repeats, we must trust the teaching, not only the teacher. The prophecy turns on this meeting. Have any of us seen the star mark illuminate before? The abbot, weariness shading his expression, signals for silence. We have survived on caution, but each cycle asks us to change, he admits. His gaze lingers on the visitor's mark, spiral and flame, pulsing through the dim chamber as if alive. Our founder left a sign? When a stranger's gaze and the morning star align, unlock the old order. Let knowledge and newness test one another. A monk unrolls the hidden prophecy. The faded script sings of watchers whose destiny is refracted through the star window, a mark on their skin, a presence felt as much as seen. The window now scatters sunlight around the room, golden rays illuminating the stranger's tattoo for the first time. Debate swirls. Should they exile the visitor, desperate to preserve old lines, or let him face the ancient test and possibly unlock the temple's greater purpose? Some, fearful of losing tradition, argue for isolation. Others, moved by memory and omen, urge invitation, believing that every prophecy must at last be met with open eyes. The vote is taken. Slow nods, eyes searching the stranger's face for the tremor of falsehood or the steadiness of legacy embraced. He stands quietly, medallion and amulet both catching the last fractured light of dusk. One monk speaks bravely for the first time. If we guard only what we know, the future remains blind. Let this next step be our vision. As the sun sets, resolve settles among them. The council bows, placing relics before the stranger. The chief monk steps forward. Your trial begins at moonrise. May you bear the weight and the world that waits behind it. The stranger nods, shadow flickering across starlit scrolls, a vow unspoken, but binding to whatever story comes next. Night falls thick and red as the blood moon rises over the temple roof. The monks gather in a silent procession, the chief leading with slow, measured steps. He gestures for me to kneel by the embers of an ancient fire pit, its stones still warm from the last protector's vigil. Tallow candles gutter, casting erratic shadows across faces caught between anticipation and fear. The air tastes of coming rain, but overhead, the stars burn sharp, a silent audience. Crimson firelight flickers in a bowl of spring water set between us. The chief monk produces a strip of pale cloth, tying it once around my wrist, eyes intent. Tonight, we remember the old defenders, those who faltered, those who fled, and those who held the threshold anyway. His voice gentler than dusk. He signals to the circle. Monks begin to hum, a single low note winding through cedar beams, pressing memory into every heartbeat. As the fire flares, both of us are swept into a dream, images flashing like sudden lightning. Warriors raising shields etched in spiral, failed rituals where peace fell to smoke and loss, lone souls standing between chaos and dawn. I feel heat tear through my chest, then cold, sudden and deep, as if every watcher's sacrifice ripples in my veins. The monk bows his head, voice cracking. Confess it, he pleads softly. Your greatest fear, out loud, before the fire. I hesitate. My words snag but come anyway. I fear I am a false key, meant to open, but unable to hold. I fear the world fades if I fail this calling. My stomach twists, but the burden lightens at the honesty. The chief closes his eyes, fists clenched on his own robe. My fear, he confesses, trembling, is that I led only by habit, kept the gate locked, not trusting the day change must come, that my caution bred silence instead of protection. Tears bead at his lashes. He lets them fall without shame. For a long breath, only the hushed chant persists. Crimson reflections ripple in the bowl, painting our faces in shifting patterns of fire and water. His hand finds mine, rough and warm, anchoring both our confessions in the present. The path forward is neither pride nor retreat, he murmurs. It's the joining of old pain, new promise. That's what endures. The circle hums lower. Each monk adds their own longing and regret to the tapestry of sound. The blood moon edges behind, clouds. In the ritual's closing moment, the monk passes a burning stick over the bowl, sparks biting the darkness. This is how lineages mend. Truth spoken at the threshold, memory not hidden but lit by fragile fire. As the smoke rises, my vision blurs. Past, present, and future all spinning together. The fire burns down. The water glimmers, calm at last. No reassurance comes, yet I feel changed. All doubt not erased, but now shared. By sunrise, neither of us will walk alone again. If you could witness one memory from those who came before you, what would you choose and why? Share below. The fire dwindles, casting elongated shadows that slide along the ancient stone floor. Candles gutter and snap. For a moment, the ritual circle blurs, faces haloed in red from the moon as the chief monk leans forward, breath shallow. The star-shaped window above brightens, catching a sudden shaft of moonlight. The beam lands squarely on my chest, warmth blooming along the spiral mark beneath my shirt. He whispers, "Look." My eyes follow the golden line running from the window to my skin. Its touch electric, not burning but strangely soothing. Symbols shimmer along my arms, spirals, keys, unfamiliar glyphs. I feel myself unspooling through time, spirit twined with his. A vision erupts between us, not a dream but a living memory. The room breathes as the air thickens, a hum rising from every bowl and bell. At once, I see us as guardians, 1,000 pairs of hands linked across generations, holding back the chaos lurking just beyond the edge of dawn. The monk grips his beads, knuckles white, voice cracking as he breathes words only I seem to hear. This is the moment. Let what binds us reveal itself. A brief pulse of energy bursts from the window, symbols leaping from my flesh onto the walls themselves, flickering from stone to light, dissolving again into my skin. For a heartbeat, I hear the world beyond. Rain in Morocco, laughter in Peru, silent prayers whispered through incense in Mongolia. The temple vibrates, bowls trembling with an eerie tone that feels both terrifying and fiercely protective. We open our eyes at the same time. The monk's face glows, gold flecks scattering across his cheeks. For the first time in many years, he smiles. A weary, awe-filled curve that says everything he feared has passed. "We have unlocked what slept," he says softly, voice reverent. "Not guardians against the world, but guardians of its hope," I nod, breath coming fast. The tattoo beneath my skin pulses once. Calm now. I sit with the chief in the strange quiet, a balance restored not by answers, but by the light that flickered, binding us in silent witness. Through the star window, the moon rides high, the night alive with possibility. Even as the symbols fade, I know protection has shifted. It is woven now through every stone, every whisper, every gaze brave enough to see the world and keep watching. Dawn edges over the horizon, pale light, tracing dew along the temple's winding path. Inside, the main hall hums quietly as the chief monk walks through the great doors, head bowed, robe stained gold by the morning sun. Every acolyte rises, unsure, hope and tension clashing in their eyes. Behind him steps the stranger, shoulders squared yet humble, a new spiral mark visible where his sleeve slips. The eldest monk bows, hands pressed together. You vanished when we needed guidance. Have you found what the lineage asked of you? The chief inclines his head, voice softer than wind. I have found humility, not answers. In meeting the stranger's gaze, I saw not a threat, but the shape of our next beginning. A hush falls. Even the faint clatter of a dropped bead echoes louder than expected. The chief beckons the outsider forward. He stands now as one of us, not chosen by the old law, but by the call that outlasts any blood or vow. The stranger bows low, eyes shining, fingers fidgeting with the amulet pressed there by last night's trial. The chief turns to his students. We are not keepers of secrets for the sake of secrecy. Our duty is to witness, to share, to teach, to let the world shape us as much as we hope to shape it. A student, voice quivering, asks, will the rituals change? Will you teach us what he saw? The chief monk's mouth curves into a new, gentle smile. Rituals must breathe as we do. Today we each choose whether to step forward as protectors, to carry light, not arms. The wind lifts prayer flags above the roof, snapping them crisp and new. Temple bells ring out, no longer ominous but celebratory. The outsider kneels, head dipped. I was not born among you, he says quietly, but I have known the same hunger for meaning, the same terror of silence. He touches the spiral over his heart. What I carry for all. The chief monk places a hand on his shoulder, turning to the young monks gathered in careful rows. Begin again. Let our lesson be this. Power means nothing without the courage to pass it on. Sunlight makes the dew shimmer all along the temple path. Every prayer flag dances. Every student's face glows with the possibility of a new beginning. Outside, doves scatter as the first song of the day rises. Not the old chant, but one shaped by voices both familiar and new. The temple is changed, not by loss, but by what it now dares to share with the world beyond its gates. As the new song rises from the temple, a melody born of both custom and change, its ripples reach far beyond ancient stone walls. In the city, a teacher chalks spiral marks along a playground path, telling her students, "It's for courage. Walk it before you climb." At home, a mother weaves silver thread into her daughter's braid, humming the tune she remembers from her own childhood, now brightened with a note she cannot place. Across continents, artists wake from restless dreams and sketch glowing symbols on paper, their hands guided by memory and intuition. An engineer in Istanbul jots formulae, stumbling onto patterns that echo star geometry from the Himalayan window. In Peru, grandparents gather their families around dusk fires, whispering new stories of protectors who keep watch not with swords, but with unyielding hope. A scientist in Zurich, jolted awake, realizes last night's puzzle solution ran in radiant spirals across her chalkboard. Chalk spirals and signals bloom everywhere, on city sidewalks in Tokyo, in the red sand outside Marrakesh, inside subway tunnels and schoolyards. Distant rain begins, gentle and sure. A chime rings as children leap puddles, some mimicking hand movements learned from travelers or tales sent in videos and phone calls by those inspired from afar. Narration threads through these echoes. The work begun between a monk and a stranger blossoms in 1,000 lives. A ripple of awakening, not loud or showy, but steady, real. People feel empowered, claiming small acts of witness in their own worlds. Some become quiet guardians, a hand on a shoulder, a painted window sign, a shared memory before sunrise. Others find new courage as peacemakers or listeners, guided by the story now spreading like a beacon quietly passed hand to hand. In the settling dusk, a distant bell rings, the same note perhaps, that woke the legend back in the temple, now calling the next seeker, the next watcher, to step forward. The chain is unbroken, and the light it carries has only just begun to reveal itself, wherever someone dares to answer. Mist gathers at the day's end as the monk and outsider settle on smooth stone at the temple's threshold. Wind ripples the fallen prayer bells, their faint clatter a music meant for no audience but the dusk. In silence they sit, shoulder to shoulder, neither master nor guest, but witnesses to a vow too old for words. Their eyes, heavy with memory and new peace, drift to the narrow path threading down the mountain, now open, now hidden by mist. The chief monk's breath comes slow, matching the outsider's. Each draws in the same air, the same weight of history, exhaling together as if releasing centuries of watchfulness into the twilight. In their gaze, unbroken and calm, lies the strength that halls and rituals could never hold alone. It is the gaze that says, "We bear this for those who cannot name it, and for those still to come." A breeze lifts, stirring the flags overhead and carrying the last notes of the temple's new song to the valley below. Somewhere, a child pauses, feeling the hush, a small hand pressing the spiral she chalked onto a gate. In faraway cities, others wake with the pulse of courage under their ribs, unaware, maybe, of the two figures who now guard the threshold on behalf of all who will pass next. The monk closes his eyes. The outsider smiles, just slightly, sensing the measureless future opening before them. A prophecy fulfilled not in spectacle, but in the silent vigilance of two unyielding souls, each knowing that what they guard is living, is legacy, and in every moment's stillness is already becoming the next story to be told. If this encounter awakened something in you, subscribe for more mysteries, and tell us, what look or moment has redirected your own journey?